welcome back to Leadership with a Twist. I'm your host, Heather McGonigal, here as always with my trusty sidekick and co host, Barbara Schindler.
Hey, everybody.
We're so glad you're here. And today we want to talk a little bit about confidence. And I want to ask you, what would it look like if you led with more confidence? So please consider that. All right. So, courageous confidence is the theme of the day.
Well, I was sharing with you, Heather, how much that's coming up lately in my coaching. And I think it's just people moving to the next level of their own space in leadership, right? And that courageous confidence is really standing in your perspective, owning the responsibilities and the understanding, your learned knowledge of your role. And we weaken ourselves often in our leadership roles, in our contributions as team members in a company by being nice, like
Mm-hmm.
like being like, oh, they might not see it this way, or I've said this already and it didn't land, or anything like
Yeah,
we
like I
really
put
want
it
to.
forward, so they didn't
Right.
respond, so now I just kind of pull back and
Yeah. And
yeah.
instead, I'm encouraging people to be courageously confident
Yeah.
when they're putting something forward. Here's how I see it. Here's how it would look. Here's how we could approach it. And these are the results that I think we will receive by doing this. Let's look at this. Let's talk about this. Let's try this, depending on the situation. But that courageous confidence has a strength to it that people can lean into. And that's truly remembering your leadership role.
Yes. So there's a really important part here to own your role and be courageously confident. That's the encouragement, and I can relate to what you were sharing about what's going on in your coaching support of clients, Barbara, because I know when I'm coaching with clients, we work with the same clients in small entrepreneurial companies, and when I'm working with clients and we discuss maybe a tough situation that's impacting the team and it's their role to raise the issue with their CEO and have the conversation. Often, as I'm supporting them and helping them prep, I talk about making sure the message they want to communicate is actually received. They can't force the CEO or leadership to do what they think should be done, but their part is making sure that the message that they want to communicate about the issue, the business impact, the solutions they're bringing forward, why they matter, what they've thought about it, that whole piece, it's their responsibility to bring it forward clearly and in a way that they make sure that it lands and the person on the other side has all the information they need to fully consider the decision. Then,
Right.
if they go a different way, that's okay. You've done your part, and you can know with confidence, I did my part, they still went another way. But what I want to point out here is because you mentioned being too nice and things can it can be an Achilles heel. We don't want to be timid in how we do our part. We want to make sure that we're actually confidently conveying our perspective. And so we want to check that the message sent is the message received. We want to confirm understanding of what we're sharing of our thinking. And then once we do that, then we can go, okay, they have all the information they need around this big decision. I've done my part. But that's very different. I hope the audience can hear this, Barbara. So let me know if I'm painting the picture clearly enough. That's very different than you kind of whisper your thoughts forward and the meeting's busy, your CEO's busy, they sort of hear it, they quickly reject it, and you're like, well, I tried to put it out there and they didn't hear me. Moving on. That's not confident leadership. That's not courageous confidence, which we are encouraging you to have today.
Yeah, and the business needs courageous, confident business leaders. And what falls into this sometimes in the too niceness is that as, Heather, we both, coach strongly as empowering leadership teams does to consider the whole person, right? To consider it's a human being who has inside experience and outside experience, has the intellect, but also the emotional barometers and impacts that guide people, right? But a lot of the niceness is being over responsible for other people's emotional experience. And we are not responsible for another person's emotional regulation, another person's, emotional reactivity. We are not responsible for that. And we want to consider that with kindness and compassion and sometimes some strategy
Yeah.
in relationship, in teamwork. But the important thing about courageous confidence is queuing yourself up with business thinking. So, in a coaching call the other day, when I was supporting somebody, what I found myself saying is this is not an emotional roller coaster. This is a business experience. And you're having this was in a business launching a program, a membership
Mm-hmm.
program. So I said, this is a business promotion that has preparation, right? It has action and it has results.
Yeah.
So you're leading from the fact that we are interacting around this preparation, delivery, and results that we're working together on for the business outcomes. This isn't an emotional roller coaster that we have to be tying ourselves into other people's feelings. They are responsible for
They're grown
emotional
ups.
intelligence.
Yes.
Well, professional business people, we want to hold that so that people have the space. The more we lean in trying to take care of people, it weakens our leadership when they need it the most. When
Well,
somebody's
yeah.
feeling insecure, they're looking for the guidepost that is steady state, that has some groundedness to it, the foundation that you have established in your team before everything's running fast and maybe not going the way you want it, or you're worrying that it will or won't go the way you want it. That's the place that courageous confidence comes in, to be that steady state. We prepped, we're doing our actions, we're getting results. Let's talk about those results. That's the place that we're here. It's not taking care of each other's emotions. Everybody can learn to take a pause if they need to
Yes.
get themselves centered and present again.
Well, and that's the part that I was going to emphasize, Barbara, with what you're sharing, because in business, we do have the business outcome and numbers and things that we are meant to focus on together. That's what we're here for. We're here for the business results. In this case, of that launch, we're going for these certain beginning, middle, end results, is what we're looking at and we're going for in this particular moment in time. If people have personal emotions that are getting triggered in a high stakes scenario, we can respect that they're having an emotional response, but it's not there for us to fix or take care of. This is where the power of the pause can be used to give people the dignity of their own process. We don't need to take care of it for them. We can say, hey, we're focused on looking at the outcome of the launch. I have the report ready for us to look at and to also discuss how we can do some creative problem solving and maybe make up for some of the gaps in the revenue because it's different than what we were expecting. And why don't we first all take a break and we can come back and meet about this tomorrow? What do you think? Or we can meet again in an hour, and we can meet again in 30 minutes. We can meet again in 10 minutes, and we can give people that pause to go have their emotional reaction in their own time and space to process their emotions.
Right. And one of the reasons this is so important is the best decisions and business actions are not going to come from that emotional space. But I'd like everybody just to consider thinking of a time, or watch yourself for the next week or so and say, am I leaning into trying to take care of other people's emotions? Or am I supporting others by standing courageously confident in the groundedness of my role and my contribution? So anchored in what we're looking to accomplish together, what we've prepped, what we've done, the results we're seeing is good information instead of like, oh no, it can't be this way. And just start watching. Our human nature is to get caught into, oh no, let me try to fix this, instead of, oh, this is interesting. That's the growth mindset that is going to bring your leadership and your business results to the next higher level by being, oh, wait, this is not what I expected. Oh, look at this. Hey, let me anchor in what I'm really seeing. Let me engage in what's actually happening versus trying to soften it or feel everybody else's emotions. Like, stay in touch with your own emotions and ground them present to what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. We haven't talked in a little while, I think, in Leadership with a Twist about self leadership versus self protection. But I hear you laying out in your stories today, Barbara, a few examples of what self protection can sound like in these scenarios. It can sound like, oh no, what's happening? How did we get these results? Oh no, how did we get here? Oh no, that person's upset. I've got to go take care of their feelings first. I can see they're upset. All of these things, all of these thoughts and stories that are getting triggered inside of us as human beings are actually self protection. There are emotions driving the situation instead of our good business thinking, our the prefrontal cortex of our brain, the prefrontal cortex of our brain is offline in those moments. And we are now letting our emotions drive. And I want to point that out because I want people to notice that when Barbara's bringing that up, we don't want to be engaged in business decisions from self protection. Nothing good is going to come from that. So that's why we've emphasized the pausing first, because that's your first line of defense against making choices from self protection. The pause
Yeah,
helps you shift, helps you recognize where you are, and helps you shift to self leadership.
right. And the point being also that when others are in that state, it's easy to fall into that ourselves, especially because we're caring human beings in our leadership. And that's the place where we want to be more grounded and recognize, oh, that person's emotions are driving right now. Let me anchor in some clarity of, just the facts, what's happening. How can I ground this conversation so that we all can take a pause instead of moving in? Because it's very easy to move in when emotions are driving. It's almost like uh, it's a vacuum that pulls people in that direction, right? It's kind of an energy pull.
It's very
And
contagious.
right, and to join in that, right? And so the strength of the courageous confidence is to bring yourself back to your own space and stay there in that place that you can join in. And again, offer stability, offer the space to pause instead of joining in. And again, it happens so fast that we want to practice this and be mindful, right? Because that mindset of being courageously confident in my role can help. That mindset can lead you in those moments that are a little rickety and things are happening, because nothing in business is going to be accomplished, as we've said, the best when our emotions are driving. And we want to be sure, I know we were talking earlier about, some of the Barbara quotes, and,
Yeah.
the best information is where the action is. And guess what? The most vulnerability to move into emotional drive is where the action is. So the person who, sometimes it's the owner because they're really holding high stakes for the results of this and they're very conscious of that. Or maybe it's the person who, did the email campaign.
Yeah.
And so it's
They
like,
tried
oh,
something new with the emails and now they're
yeah,
extra
so
vulnerable
it's
with the
extra
results.
vulnerable. Right. So also where the action is placed is where somebody can most easily be pulled in, and that might not be the place you're in, right? So that's helpful. Again, we're supporting one another by being courageously confident in the business thinking, in the pausing, instead of going into the emotional roller coaster, which is a roller coaster that does not serve yourself or others, but it definitely is exhausting.
I also find it helpful in moments like you're describing if we can remember as human beings tougher situations we've come through before. Because we
Mm-hmm.
tend to go into maybe over panic with our emotions being triggered. But once you have lived any kind of length of lifetime, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, you start to recognize, no, this isn't actually life or death. This isn't an emergency. Or, oh, wait, we as a team have come through a bigger challenge than this before. We faced something like this last year while we were migrating our CRM at the same time, and we still survived. So, can we handle this moment? Yes, we can, because we have done so in the past as the team. That can help bolster our confidence, because I think self protection has us, because our brain goes offline and we're in the emotion of it all, we forget who we are. That's another reason why this reminder to be courageously confident in who you are, own your perspective, own who you are, is so important, because all of that goes offline and it is as if we forget who we are and what we're capable of. So,
Right. And the truth is, as business leaders, which is the area we're talking about here, that's how business works. That is the game we're playing. It's like, we can't, it's not about control. It's about, really engaging in the facts and what is, and really seeing those obstacles as like, oh, that's good information. Let's put our best thinking together here. Let's do our business checking in so that we can see what do we do with what's actually real here instead of our fantasy. I think this might be just another twist to that, is like, am I living my fantasy of how this is supposed to go? Whether I'm assuming my team, in this case, I was just connecting this to a coaching call this morning, and it's just like, man, for 2 years I've been developing this team and my managers, and I'm taking an inventory now, catching up, and like they're not developing their teams. They're correcting. They're taking charge by fixing things, and it was like one of these moments, and I was like, okay, so that's what you're seeing today, but that doesn't take away from the 2 years of development that is happening. Let's see what's in the way here now, what's really happening. And you can move the dial a lot faster than when you feel like frustrated
yeah.
and oh, nothing's been happening for 2 years, right? So that place of moving into what's happening now, what is it telling me, and you know what part am I contributing to this? Again, coming into courageous confidence is like, oh, maybe there's another way to say it today. Maybe there's something I'm not hearing or seeing in the current circumstance that will inform the best decisions. That's why we want to be courageously confident to deal with what's real. That fantasy that I was kind of going into is like, I expect this to be that way. It's great to have vision,
Mm-hmm.
great to have hope, and great expectations, but we can lose ourselves. Another thing I invite people to watch for: am I hanging out in my fantasy of how this relationship, this team, this project was going to go, or am I really engaged in the process of this, where I can make my best contribution and be courageous to change and to grow and to learn from this experience. So there is a level of, am I fantasizing how life should be?
Yeah. Which is something we also do from self protection. So when your
Totally.
brain is making up a bunch of stories, are you aware to notice that I'm in story makeup emotional reactive mode?
All of that.
We want you to notice that. We want you
Yes.
to pause and be able to anchor yourself in just the facts as much as possible of the scenario. That's the thing that's going to ground you in this moment in the business reality so you can make different choices using your prefrontal cortex and the business outcomes, the business results. We want to ground there what's really happening, what's the real picture, so that we can make more solid decisions grounded by you and your confidence and your other team members in confidence. The other thing I want to mention in teams and companies, all companies, whether you're a launching company or a brick and mortar store, you have promotions, you have sales, you have times where you have higher expectations for the results you want to get for something. Now, there may be a time we're looking at, we're not getting the results we thought. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And there is an aspect to which we want to triage in the moment to get as much result as we can from that launch, promotion, or sale. And there is also an aspect that I want to put out there, which is like when we've triaged enough as we can for this particular sale, and it might be best to let it all wrap up, let us all rest, and then come together as a team after we've rested and recovered and let us brainstorm for new sales and new promotions and new things we're going to do now that we're in this moment in time after that result. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? Because sometimes we get lost in the triage and we over triage this
Over
moment right now.
triage. Yes.
And we're so exhausted that we're kind of like throwing tons of resources down the drain and really beating ourselves up. So if you can recognize self protection sooner and not over give to that moment and trust the brilliance of yourself and your team to like, let's try to stave off the bleeding and then let's get some rest and come back together when we can do better thinking and get creative together.
Yeah, I think of that as I'm listening to you of completing the cycle. So as I said before, it's a very simple formula. We prep, we take actions, we get results. But in that, there's a cycle. And what you're inviting is to be like, let's finish that cycle out, ground ourselves, get replenished, come back with fresh thinking to how we prepped, took actions, and got results to inform us how to move forward. We
Yes.
get very much caught up in self protection in that place of it should be, the results should be different or the things should be happening differently. So then we get caught in that too much triage you're talking about. We get into fix it mode,
Yes.
right? And again, I think that let's take a look in the next couple of weeks for all of us to kind of look, am I moving into the emotional drive without realizing it? Am I taking care of other people's emotions? Am I trying to fulfill my fantasy because it's going to feel a lot better than, oh, we didn't score this one the way I wanted to. I didn't win this game or whatever that I was intending to. But then we take that moment that you said, grounded, then courageously, confidently look at the what happened? What did we learn? There's so much rich information that maybe we need to set up things differently. Maybe we need to change some of the roles and responsibilities to be sure we're setting everybody up for success to give their best, proofing and all kinds of things. It's like maybe we need to pause a minute to see what's surfacing,
Yes.
right?
And in those debriefs, we come back to where we started this conversation, which is that we want you as a leader to be courageously confident in your perspective, your thinking and use your voice fully in your role.
Right.
That's the invitation. So, as we close, I'll remind you of the question that I started with, which is what does it look like when you lead with greater confidence? Why don't you share that with Barbara and myself in the comments with below this video if you feel so inspired. And if you like other support around yourself, your team, and your role, Barbara and I love supporting entrepreneurial teams. There's always a link below our videos to get on our schedule and get a one-on-one coaching call at no charge so that we can meet and support you in what you're doing. We thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next Leadership with a Twist conversation. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.